Roughly 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years of their win. Not some of them. Not the unlucky ones. 70%. People who received more money in a single moment than most people earn across an entire career and lost it within years. This is not a story about irresponsibility. It is a story about a specific set of financial mechanisms that almost nobody teaches, that the financial industry makes dramatically worse, and that apply to every situation where a large lump sum arrives without the infrastructure to handle it. Lottery winners just happen to be the clearest illustration of the math. Here is a number that should not be possible. Roughly 70% of lottery winners in the United States go broke within a few years of their win. That is not a figure from a single study. It is a pattern documented across multiple research sources, including data from the National Endowment for Financial Education and academic work published in peer-reviewed economics journals. Think about what that statistic actually means. These are people who received, in a single moment, sums of money large enough to eliminate financial stress for generations. Not a raise, not a bonus. Sums that would classify them as wealthy by any conventional measure. And within a few years, the majority of them are in worse financial shape than before the win. But here is what makes this genuinely important beyond the lottery story specifically. The financial mechanisms that produce this outcome are not unique to lottery winnings. They operate identically when someone receives a large inheritance, a business sale payout, a legal settlement, or any other situation where a significant lump sum arrives suddenly and without the financial infrastructure to absorb it. Lottery winners are simply the most visible and statistically trackable version of a broader phenomenon. Understanding why this happens, specifically, mechanistically, with the math shown clearly, reveals something important about how wealth actually works that most financial education never reaches. By the end of this video, you will understand the 3 specific mechanisms that break sudden wealth, exactly why the financial industry makes each one worse, and the precise counterintuitive approach that actually works when a large sum arrives. Let us start with the math that most people get completely wrong. The first mechanism is what behavioral economists call the reference point shift, and it is the most powerful and least discussed force in sudden wealth destruction. Before a large windfall, your financial reference point, the mental benchmark against which you evaluate spending decisions, is anchored to your income. A person earning $50,000 per year develops an intuitive sense of what things cost relative to their income. A $3,000 vacation feels significant because it represents 6% of their annual earnings. A monthly restaurant bill of $300 feels reasonable because it represents a manageable percentage of take-home pay. Every spending decision is unconsciously calibrated to the income anchor. The moment a large windfall arrives, that anchor shifts. A person who receives $2 million suddenly has a new reference point, one where $3,000 is a fraction of a percent of total wealth. The vacation that once required careful consideration now feels trivially small. The monthly restaurant bill that once felt like a reasonable indulgence now feels like rounding error. Every spending decision recalibrates upward because the reference point against which spending is evaluated has changed dramatically. The mathematical problem is this. The reference point shifts permanently with the win, but the wealth itself is finite and non-regenerating. $2 million sounds inexhaustible at the moment of winning. At a spending rate recalibrated to feel proportional to $2 million, spending that feels modest relative to the total, that sum depletes faster than intuition suggests. If the new reference point generates spending of $200,000 per year, the principal is exhausted in 10 years before any taxes, fees, or investment losses. If spending reaches $400,000 annually, which can feel restrained when the reference point is $2 million, the money is gone in 5 years. This is not recklessness. It is reference point drift, a documented cognitive mechanism that operates below conscious awareness, recalibrating every spending judgment to a new baseline that the actual financial position cannot sustain indefinitely. The second mechanism compounds the first. Sudden wealth arrives without income replacement infrastructure. A salary generates regular, renewable income, money that regenerates each pay period. A lump sum does not regenerate unless it is invested in income-producing assets first. Most lottery winners do not convert the lump sum to income-producing assets immediately. They spend from principal, which is a fundamentally different financial dynamic from spending from income. Every dollar spent from a lump sum is a permanent reduction in the total. Every dollar spent from investment income is replaceable by the next period's returns. The distinction is simple to describe and remarkably hard to internalize when the number on the check feels large enough to be permanent. And here is where it gets more complicated, because the reference point shift and the principal spending problem are operating before a single external pressure arrives. Which brings us to what breaks most winners fastest. The third mechanism is the one most people predict when they think about lottery winners losing money, but they almost always underestimate how it actually operates. The social pressure on a lottery winner is not simply generous friends asking for help. It is a restructured social environment in which the winner's financial position becomes the defining feature of every relationship they have, and where the social cost of saying no to financial requests becomes, for many winners, psychologically unbearable. Research on lottery winners consistently documents a pattern. Within weeks of a win becoming public, winners report being approached by extended family members they had not spoken to in years, acquaintances from decades prior, strangers who frame requests as loans, and community members who present charitable or investment opportunities. The psychological literature on this phenomenon notes that most winners have no prior experience managing the social dynamics of being visibly wealthy. They have no practice scripts for saying no, no social precedent for navigating requests, and no framework for distinguishing opportunistic requests from genuine needs. The result is a decision-making environment characterized by what researchers call request fatigue, an accumulation of individual financial decisions, each of which feels manageable in isolation, that aggregate to substantial depletion. A $50,000 gift to a parent feels reasonable. A $30,000 loan to a sibling feels unavoidable. A $25,000 investment in a friend's business feels like supporting someone you care about. A $15,000 response to a cousin's emergency feels like what a decent person does. None of these individual decisions requires irresponsibility. The aggregate is what breaks the winner. Now here is the personal mirror for anyone watching this. You do not need to win the lottery to experience a version of this mechanism. An inheritance, a job promotion that becomes publicly known, a business success that changes your visible lifestyle. Any shift in financial position that becomes apparent to your social network creates a version of the same dynamic at a smaller scale. The specific requests are smaller. The psychological pattern is identical. Someone in your life who previously would not have asked you for help now asks, because the perceived asymmetry has shifted. And the social cost of saying no to someone you care about, the guilt, the relationship friction, the feeling of being changed by money, is real regardless of the dollar amount. The financial industry compounds this mechanism rather than addressing it. The financial advisors, attorneys, and wealth managers who approach lottery winners immediately after a win are not, as a group, oriented toward protecting the winner from social pressure. They are oriented toward securing the winner's assets under management, which means their financial interest lies in the winner moving money into managed products, not in the winner converting assets to income streams and drawing down management pressure. Many winners end up in complex investment arrangements they do not understand, paying significant fees, while simultaneously giving money away to their social network at a rate those arrangements cannot offset. The combination of reference point drift, principal spending, social pressure, and misaligned professional advice is what produces the 70% figure. Not carelessness. A system of specific, interlocking mechanisms operating simultaneously on someone who has never been prepared for any of them. If seeing those four mechanisms laid out together just explains something about the 70% figure that never made sense before, stay with me. Because understanding why sudden wealth fails is one thing. But there is a counterintuitive insight underneath all of this that applies directly to your financial life right now, whether you ever win a lottery or not. It is about the difference between how wealth is built and how wealth is preserved. And almost nobody explains that those require completely different approaches. Here is what the financial industry does to lottery winners that almost nobody discusses, and why understanding it matters for anyone who will ever receive a significant lump sum for any reason. When a large lottery win becomes public, and most do become public because winner identities are disclosed in most jurisdictions, the winner becomes a target for financial services solicitation at a scale and intensity most people have never experienced. Attorneys, financial advisors, wealth managers, investment product salespeople, insurance agents, and real estate professionals all move toward a newly announced winner simultaneously. This is legal. In some cases, the professionals involved are genuinely skilled and have the winner's interests at heart. But the concentration of financial services attention on a new winner creates a specific problem. The winner must make high-stakes financial decisions, under time pressure, with unfamiliar people, while simultaneously managing the social pressure we just covered and the reference point shift happening internally. That is an environment designed to produce poor decisions. The specific financial product most commonly sold to lottery winners in the immediate aftermath of a win is the managed investment product, actively managed funds, complex wealth management arrangements, annuities with significant commission structures. We covered in an earlier video how these products are the highest margin offerings in the financial services industry and how their recommendations are shaped by the commissions they generate rather than by the client's optimal outcome. For a winner with no prior wealth management experience, these products are almost always presented as the obvious and responsible choice. The alternative, a simple, low-cost, passive investment structure generating sustainable income, requires more financial literacy to understand and generates less revenue for the advisor. It is therefore less often recommended. Drop in the comments whether you would trust a financial advisor who approached you within days of receiving a large sum, or whether you would wait and find one yourself on your own timeline. The distinction matters, and I want to know where you draw that line. Now here is something that reframes the entire lottery winner story. The behaviors that build wealth over time. Living below your means, investing consistently, avoiding lifestyle inflation, saying no to financial requests, are the opposite of what sudden wealth triggers socially and psychologically. Building wealth requires patience, restraint, and the discipline to not spend money you have. Preserving a sudden windfall requires exactly the same disciplines, but in a context where the reference point has shifted, the social pressure is intense, and the professionals around you are incentivized to move money into complex structures rather than to help you live simply below the interest your principal generates. The lottery winner who survives the win financially is not smarter or luckier than the 70% who do not. They are the one who, somehow, usually by accident, did the counterintuitive thing. Here is the counterintuitive approach that works, and why it feels wrong to almost everyone who receives a large sum. The first step is the hardest one. Do nothing for 6 months. Not nothing forever. Nothing immediately. Park the money in the simplest, safest, most boring instrument available, a government-backed savings vehicle or a money market account, and do not make any significant financial decisions for 6 months. The reference point shift, the social pressure wave, and the financial services solicitation are all most intense in the first weeks after a win. 6 months of deliberate inaction removes the worst decision-making environment from the equation. This feels wasteful. It is the opposite of wasteful. It is the period during which every premature decision you did not make is a potential disaster you avoided. The second step is converting the lump sum to income before anything else. Calculate what the principal can generate annually at a conservative investment return. Commonly 4% is used as a sustainable withdrawal rate in financial planning. On $2 million, that is $80,000 per year. Treat that number as your new income. Spend from the income. Do not touch the principal. Live at a level the income supports, not at a level the total principal suggests. This one discipline, income not principal, is the variable most consistently present in the minority of lottery winners who sustain their wealth. The third step is creating a written financial request policy before telling anyone about the money. Decide in advance what you will and will not fund, for whom, under what circumstances, and in what form, loan versus gift, and whether you will take requests at all. Having that policy written before the requests begin means you are implementing a decision you made rationally, not making a new decision under emotional pressure for each request. The decision was made once, clearly, without an audience. Apply these 3 principles to any lump sum, an inheritance, a settlement, a business sale. The lottery winner who fails is not a warning about lottery winners. They are a warning about what happens when large sums arrive without infrastructure. The infrastructure is 3 things: time before deciding, income not principal, and a written request policy. That is the counterintuitive thing that works. Now you know what it is. 70% of lottery winners go broke. Not because they are reckless, because four specific mechanisms: reference point drift, principal spending, social pressure, and misaligned professional advice operate simultaneously on someone who has never been prepared for any of them. The same mechanisms apply to every large lump sum, at every scale. Time before deciding. Income not principal. A written request policy. 3 things that work, that almost nobody does, and that now you know. Share this with one person who has ever received, or expects to receive, a large lump sum without a plan for it. And if you want to keep understanding the financial mechanics nobody teaches, subscribe to Hidden Truth Files. Hidden no more.